He was, a great speaker, a great leader, who did everything he can just to, for his people to survive.
Sure.
And I mean, he led some pretty vicious, brutal attacks on the settlements, but it was a vicious and brutal time.
Yeah.
The way the Shawnee and the Mingo and these other tribes, they're fighting for their lives. They're fighting for their land and their homes. And they know if they come out on the losing end of this conflict, it's all over for them.
Welcome to Creepalachia. I have my friend, Dr. Chuck Keeney, in the studio today, and we're going to be talking the American Revolution in terms of West Virginia specifically, or what are we doing? We doing overviews?
Yeah. I'm kind of looking at West Virginia or Western Virginia, during the American Revolution.
Heck yeah.
We're coming upon the 250th anniversary of the United States here. Since the signing of the Declaration of Independence, 2026.
Shoot, yeah.
So a lot of revolution stuff out there, and a lot of people. I was on here before, and by the way, thanks for having me back.
Oh man, you got unlimited ticket to come in whenever you want.
I appreciate that. I love what you've done with the show. And when we were on here, I was on here the first time we did the Mine Wars, right? And I always talk about the Mine Wars as being this overlooked part of history, right? But that's changed a lot in recent years. It's gotten a lot of attention. You go into a local bookstore, place like Taylor Books in Charleston or something like that, there's a whole row of Mine Wars books.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So that's becoming a well-known thing at least within West Virginia, and it's broadening out. You go to the same stores and you look for a book on the American Revolution in West Virginia, nothing.
Yep. Now that you mention it, I've came across, so Kim Burns done this huge thing on the American Revolution, but didn't really involve West Virginia much.
Right.
And he says Appalachia, which I was hyped about.
Yeah.
He doesn't say Appalachia.
Right. That's good.
Yeah. So I'm very excited for this episode. When you pitched it, I was like, Lord, yeah, man, let's do it.
Yeah. It's a lot of cool stuff. A lot of cool stuff happened out here.
And I'm very green on the subject as usual. So the Declaration of Independence was signed on July 4th of
1776.
76. Yeah. I knew that. I just had to jog my memory. So where do you want to start?
Well, for West Virginia, it really starts at Point Pleasant. The Battle of Point Pleasant. Now, that's not really where the revolution began, but it's where it set everything in motion for West Virginia. And October 1774, actually, is where all this gets going on. But and I'm sure some of your viewers and listeners know a little bit about the Battle of Point Pleasant, right? Or you've heard about the Battle of Point Pleasant.
Sure. We've done a story on it. One of the other journalists wrote it. So we can start from scratch there.
Yeah. But it's one of the three most important battles that ever took place in West Virginia, or what is now West Virginia. You got Point Pleasant, you got Blair Mountain, and you got Rich Mountain in the Civil War, which I don't think there would be a state of West Virginia if not for the Battle of Rich Mountain, but that's another.
Where's that at?
It's up near past Elkins.
Okay.
And towards, I think, Beverly. Is it Beverly?
Yeah.
Yeah, down that way.
Okay.
It's that battle enabled the North to control most of Western Virginia and allowed for the folks in Wheeling to create our state.
Okay.
So as far as battles go, I think those are the big three in West Virginia history. So Point Pleasant. And I hate to do this, but I kind of got to give you the background of that.
Oh, Lord, yeah, please.
So you got Western Virginia, right? You don't have a lot of folks living out here until the 1750s, right? Just before the French and Indian War. Okay. Yeah, and you have some people that settle up around the Morgantown area and in the Eastern Panhandle, some German settlers, English, Scottish, and Irish. In the 1750s, you get the Greenbrier Valley starts to be settled by mostly Scottish and Irish folks. My family was among those families that settled in the early 1750s, in fact. And so, I've got some personal history and, all that too. But so they were there for the French and Indian War, which on the continent, that took place roughly 1754 to 1763. Although in Europe, they call it the 7 Years' War, even though it lasted like 9 years.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. But anyway, that kind of sets the tone for the American Revolution, right? So you had that war was about who was going to control the North American continent, the British Empire or the French Empire, right? The British win and the colonists win. And after it's over with, King George III issues what's called the Proclamation of 1763. And basically, among the other the many things in this proclamation, the part that affects West Virginia is that they forbade any settlement past the Appalachian Mountains. They wanted all of that, although past the Appalachian Mountains all the way to the Mississippi River was going to be Native American territory.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, no settlers passed there. And they did this basically to appease the tribes, most of whom sided with the French during the war. But the British fought the war because they wanted the fur trade in part. They wanted control over the fur, which was big, big money back then. And they wanted to trade with the Native Americans. It was cheaper that way. If they sent settlers out there and traded with them, you'd have to pay gold and things like that. But with the Native Americans, you could barter and you could do it cheaper. So they wanted to trade with the Native Americans, and so they wanted better relations with them.
Right.
And so,
how many tribes were there? There was Delaware, Shawnee, Cherokee. I mean,
if you're talking about around here, you have most of the tribes that are involved in the American Revolution around here. Shawnee is the principal one. But you also have the Mingo and the Delaware and the Wyandot.
Okay.
Are the big ones. Cherokee are further south. On very rare occasions, Cherokee came this far north to hunt. But the Cherokee and the Shawnee were always at war against each other. And so the Cherokee are usually further south. Although, for whatever reason, I always joke about this in my classes, in my West Virginia history classes. For whatever reason, everybody in West Virginia thinks they're part Cherokee.
Right. My mom does, yes.
I think we're part Cherokee.
Yeah.
We got some Cherokee in us.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know why that is. But
she tried to file for a scholarship for me after high school. No, that's a joke. That's a bad joke. But yeah. I know what you're saying. A lot of people have said that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but the Cherokee never actually lived here, although occasionally they came up here to hunt.
Right.
And this area was mostly hunting grounds. Now, you had some settlements, but it was mostly hunting grounds. Most of the Shawnee, for example, lived past in Ohio, in what's now Ohio. They used to live further north, but they were driven south by the Iroquois after losing some wars to them. They were there's all these little wars that are going on between the Native American tribes. So
I always laugh when people think that today is the worst time ever to be alive. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
You don't even know.
Yeah.
Like, it used to be insanity, like Game of Thrones on the porch every other day.
Yeah.
But,
yeah.
And you said it's Wyandot, it's not Wyandot?
Wyandot.
Okay. Blew my mind. Let's go.
Yeah. Wyandot. So, they were part of the Ottawa Confederation. But anyway, most of them used this area as their hunting grounds. And of course, I wish we could have seen what this place looked like when they were all virgin forests. You can look up pictures of the timber industry, the history of the timber industry in West Virginia, and see how gigantic the trees used to be here.
Like wider than this studio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. People would carve out caves in them, to stay in until they built their cabins.
Oh, I haven't seen that. Is there photos of this?
There's photos of some of the sizes of the trees. If you Google it and check it online,
sure.
Gigantic trees. You'll find they had to dynamite a lot of the trees when the timber industry came through here. They were so big.
Oh wow!
Thinking about dynamiting in the coal mines, they had to dynamite the trees. So you had elk here in big numbers. You had bear, wolves, buffalo. This was a rich, rich hunting ground. Back in the day. And so, but anyway, a lot of settlers start coming in here in the 1750s. And a lot of them Scottish, a lot of them Irish, particularly in the Greenbrier Valley area. And they come out here because the wealthier colonists were all on the coast, right? The landowners and everything. And most of the people that were indentured servants after if they lived through indentured servitude, they would get lands out on the frontier.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of them came out here, isolated settlements. I always tell my students, there's no Walmart out here back in the day. You had to provide every single thing for yourself and your family. But, they came out here in numbers. There was, at the time of the Revolution in what is now West Virginia, maybe between 20,000 and 30,000 people, white settlers lived here.
Mm-hmm.
Somewhere in that neighborhood. We don't know the exact numbers, but roughly around that amount. Well, they fight the French and Indian War. They think that they're going to be a lot of settlers think they're going to be able to move further west because the Native Americans were on the side of the French, and they thought, well, now that the war's over, the government's going to let us go further west into these nice farmlands in Ohio and all that. The British government said, no, you can't go further west. That's for the Native Americans. And that ticked off the colonists in a big way. That and then some taxes that they put on, to pay for the war.
Right.
So, nonetheless, they signed another treaty, the British do, with the Iroquois, because the proclamation was all about the treaty with the French. And, the Native Americans don't really recognize European treaties, right? They don't care what piece of paper gets signed over in France, right?
Sure.
So the British do sign a treaty with most of the Native American tribes that kind of recognizes those boundaries, and basically the Ohio River in this what's called the Treaty of Fort Stanwix. So they make this treaty, and the Ohio River is supposed to be the boundary line. So settlers are allowed to go to the Ohio River, but not past it. And the Native Americans are supposed to kind of respect that boundary. All right. But the Shawnee weren't there. They didn't sign any treaty. But the Iroquois were there. They signed the treaty. And the Iroquois said that they could speak for the Shawnee and the Delaware because they defeated them in war, and they kind of thought that they were subject to them. But the Shawnee and the Delaware were like, screw this, we didn't sign any treaty.
Right.
We're going to continue to go across the Ohio and hunt. And so the settlers who are coming out here, they end up getting kind of into little disputes throughout the 1760s and early 1770s with Native Americans. Nothing really bad at first, but there was, in the early 1760s, there was a thing called Pontiac's War, right after the French and Indian War, in which the Native American tribes were like, well, the French left, but we're not giving up. And they went all through the Greenbrier Valley and into the Blue Ridge Mountains, massacring settlers. Cornstalk was one of the chief Shawnee that was in charge of this, and there was some pretty brutal killings that took place. There was one instance where they came upon a family that lived in the Greenbrier Valley. I forget the name of the family, but they had just killed 3 elk, and so they invited the natives to eat with them. And so they ate, and then right at the end of the meal, the natives broke out their tomahawks and killed everybody.
Goodness.
Yeah. And a lot of times, sometimes they would kill everybody. Sometimes they would take a couple of hostages,
right?
Usually children, sometimes women. And the children they would raise the children as Native Americans once they got them over.
And they get Stockholm syndrome, wouldn't they? Like they grow up and not want to leave.
Yeah. A lot of them stay. In fact, at the Battle of Point Pleasant, one of the guys there, and I forget his name, but he ended up finding the body of his brother who had been taken as a kid, who was fighting on the side of the Shawnee.
Oh, wow.
After the battle.
Yeah.
So, so some of them do end up, kind of converting over to that. So anyway.
And Cornstalk cursed the land, famously.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
Sure, yeah.
Cornstalk's curse. And some people tie that in with the Mothman.
Oh,
right?
Yeah, we got to.
Yeah, everything comes back to Mothman.
It does,
right?
Yeah, yep.
So anyway, there's tensions going on back and forth. At the same time, there's a lot of land grab issues going on between Virginia and Pennsylvania because they don't have their western boundaries of these two colonies kind of fixed.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're the Virginians are claiming land all the way up to Pittsburgh and saying that's part of our colony. And the Pennsylvanians were like, no, it's not. And there was kind of this dispute. And ultimately, the governor of Virginia, a guy by the name of Lord Dunmore, his name was John Murray, a Scottish guy. He was in the governor of the Virginia colony. He wants to really ensure that this area remains as a part of Virginia and not Pennsylvania. There was folks in Pennsylvania that wanted to create a colony out here called the Vandalia colony. That kind of lost steam, but Dunmore wants to make sure that doesn't happen and that this is a part of Virginia and stays a part of Virginia. But he kind of needs an excuse. He wants to make sure he gets military presence over there in Western Virginia, but he kind of needs an excuse, right? And so he gets this guy by the name of John Conley and puts him out at Fort Pitt at this time, what's current day Pittsburgh, which Virginia is claiming at this time. So you got Virginia militia at Fort Pitt at Pittsburgh. And he tells this John Conley guy, I want you to stir some stuff up with the Native Americans. And I want you to, stir the pot a little bit. And so he does. He encourages people to fire on Native Americans, start saying that there's a state of war, start saying that, the Shawnee and the Delaware and the Wyandot, they can't be trusted and all this kind of stuff. And tensions escalate until you get something called the Yellow Creek Massacre. And this was in April of 1774. A guy by the name of Daniel and I believe it's Joseph or Jacob. Great House. The Great House family. I believe there's a casino near near the spot where it took place.
Oh, really? Now?
Yeah. And they invite some Mingo over to their place. There was a lot of trading that went on back and forth between the settlers and Native Americans, too. They traded back and forth things. It's not like they were all enemies. Some of them made friends, and some of them even intermarried a little bit. So it wasn't always 100% antagonistic both ways, right? So with this, Daniel Greathouse and his brothers invite some Mingo over. They get them drunk and then murder them. Just flat out murder them.
Sure.
And the Mingos specifically that they murder happen to be the sister and the son and the nephew and the brother of Chief Logan.
Oh, wow. The Chief Logan?
Chief Logan.
Gotcha.
The Chief Logan, who had been a strong proponent of peace, we can get along. We can get along with the settlers. There's no reason to fight. We can live together and all this. Well, all that's out the window when they massacre his family, right? And there's a lot of conspiracy stuff about this because everybody knew that Logan was a peacemaker. Everybody knew that. And they kind of wanted to get rid of the peacemakers. That's kind of a horrible thing about history, tragedy, is the people that stand the most for peace, they're the ones that often get targeted.
Sure, yeah.
They're the ones that often get killed.
Took advantage of.
Yeah, Martin Luther King, Jesus, Black Kettle, the famous Cheyenne chief out west, and Logan. So they went after his family. They murdered his family, or most of his family. After this, he goes on the warpath, and he goes into Western Virginia and attacks several settlements. And I believe he claims to take, I think, something like 19 scalps himself in retaliation for the murder of his family. Well, this gives Dunmore his excuse now to go to war. And so he raises up the Virginia militia. Okay. Now, the Virginia militia, in the Virginia colony, if every able-bodied male between 16 and 60 had to join the militia, it wasn't an option. It was also, you were required by law to own a rifle in the Virginia colony if you were a male.
I can get down with that. Let's go. No, that's crazy to think about.
Yeah. Yeah. We always talk about gun control and all that kind of stuff. You had to own a gun.
The absolutely reverse.
Yeah.
Of course, guns then was like, it take you 20 minutes to load the thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I want to talk to you about the guns.
Sure.
We'll do some gun talk here in a minute.
Yeah.
They, anyway, though, it's a Virginia militia. They muster up the militia, and every able-bodied male in Virginia had to join the militia. Okay. So they get a maybe around 2,500. They put them in two different groups. Dunmore and his guys are going to go all the way up to Fort Pitt and go down the Ohio River. And then Andrew Lewisburg is named after this guy.
Oh, okay.
Andrew Lewis, and he's a big name in the frontier, in the West Virginia frontier. And Andrew Lewis is kind of like a Devil Anse Hatfield kind of guy, in the sense that almost every how you're in southern West Virginia, everybody, they claim to be part Cherokee, and then they claim to be kin to Devil Anse.
Oh,
right?
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Everybody's kin to Devil Anse. And a lot of people in the Greenbrier Valley, everybody thinks they're kin to Andrew Lewis. So Lewis leads a contingent of about 1,000 militia from what is now Lewisburg. It was called Camp Union at the time, but what is now Lewisburg, all the way up to Point Pleasant. Okay, they're going to follow the Kanawha River up to Point Pleasant. And then they were supposed to meet up at some point with Dunmore's forces and then attack the Shawnee villages, take the offensive and attack the Shawnee villages in Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, obviously, Native Americans know what's going on. They're tracking the two different forces. And as they're making their way up, Cornstalk, of course, finds out about this. And so they convene with a number of the other tribes on what to do, and they decide, we're going to get to them before they get to us.
Mm-hmm.
So what Cornstalk's going to try to do, he's going to try to ambush Lewis's men, try to take them out, and then go north and deal with Dunmore's forces that are coming down south, down the Ohio River from Pittsburgh. Lewis and his men get to what is now Point Pleasant on October the 6th, 1774. And they make camp, and they're supposed to build a fort there, which they build a fort. They originally call it Fort Blair, but it gets burnt down later. But they build a little fort, and then they're kind of waiting on orders from Dunmore about where he's at and where they're supposed to go. So they're kind of hanging around. On the other side of the river is Cornstalk, and somewhere between 700 and 1,000 warriors. And it's a mix of Shawnee, Mingo, Wyandot, and Delaware. It's a mix of the bunch. And they were waiting on the other side of the river. What they were going to do is they were going to ambush everybody when they crossed the river.
Right.
But Lewis doesn't cross. He's waiting to hear from Dunmore about what he's supposed to do. So they're just there on the other side of the river. Well, Cornstalk figures he's running out of time. So he's like, we're going to have to attack them. And they're going to try to do a morning attack. So they secretly cross the river at night, and they're going to try to attack, right at the break of dawn the next morning. Mm-hmm. I believe it's October the 10th, is the morning of October the 10th. And the militia have no idea that they're there. No idea. But what saves them is the next morning, a couple of the militia, they decide to go hunting. And they leave before dawn, and they go north, which is right where Cornstalk's forces are sneaking up on him.
Whoops.
Yeah, and they're just deer hunting or turkey hunting, just trying to find something to eat.
Sure.
They have a bunch of cattle with them that they brought with them for the trip, but they don't know how long they're going to be there. So they thought, well, if we can supplement our meat with some deer or elk or turkey or something, that's what we're going to do. I forget the guy's first names. One was Huey and the other was Mooney, their last names. And so they were, creeping along trying to hunt, and bam, they suddenly run into Cornstalk's forces. Mm. One of the guys gets shot and killed outright, and the other guy escapes and runs back to the camp where Lewis is just now waking up, and runs right up to Lewis, and he says, there's 5 acres worth of Indians heading this way. I don't know if there were 5 acres, but that's what
sounds right.
Yeah, 5 acres.
Yeah.
And Lewis is like, yeah, come on now, you're exaggerating. There can't be that. It's probably just a hunting party. But I'll send some of my forces out there, just to be sure. And so he sends out 300 men to go find out what's going on. And boy, they find out. But this is what saves the battle for the militia. Because if those two hunters don't go out there and run into them and go back and sound the alarm, they go right into the camp while everybody's still asleep.
Yeah.
And it would have been a massacre.
Oh, yeah.
So they then, go up there and line up. Lewis's brother, Charles, gets killed in the early part of the battle. Almost all the officers in this battle get killed. Except one of the officers got shot through the lung, and so much so that his lung was hanging out. And he took the lung and put it back in and continued to fight.
Put some duct tape over it.
Yeah.
Like, let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've worked with people that would do that for sure in the mines.
Yeah. Once the lung makes an appearance, I'm down. I'm out.
That's crazy.
I'm out. But
we forget things are in there, and then they come out, and it's shocking.
Yeah.
It's like, whoa.
Yeah.
There is something in there.
Yeah.
Goodness gracious.
And it belongs in there.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's really brutal fighting, but the militia hold their ground. They get into their, formations, and they're able to hold their ground against the natives. This is, we make fun of how, the Europeans, would get in their square formations and kind of go.
Yep. And front line would shoot, go the back.
Yeah.
And then reload.
And you're like, well, that's kind of a dorky way to fight. And particularly on the frontier where Native Americans would hide behind trees and ambush. And it was whenever the Native Americans got caught, soldiers in a valley and with their formations, they could just tear them apart because they would hide behind trees and rocks and move around and stuff. But this is open ground.
Mm-hmm.
And on open ground, that doesn't work. And on open ground, if you've got those tight formations and everybody lined up with their rifles, they can just mow people down if they try to charge them.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so this is not to the advantage of the Shawnee and the other tribes. And the fighting goes on well into the afternoon, goes on all day, the fighting. We still don't know how many people were killed. About 50 Virginia militia are killed, and about 85 or so are wounded. And then Cornstalk later says that he lost 100 braves altogether, around 80 during the battle, and about 20 died of their wounds after the battle.
Mm-hmm.
The battle turns when Lewis sends another group south and kind of comes around on a flanking motion and catches, then kind of outflanks the natives. And they think that it's a big arrival of reinforcements. So they start to withdraw. They throw their dead into the river and then cross the river and go back. Mm. And so they win the battle. The Virginia militia win the Battle of Point Pleasant. Okay. Cornstalk then they go back to their villages and they have a big meeting with everybody on what to do now that they lost. And Cornstalk gives them an ultimatum. Says, we got one of two options here. We can either A, kill all our women and children and then fight to the last man, or go make peace.
I'll take that one.
Yeah.
But at the same time, man, it's just crazy how it's still to this day, it's who has the bigger gun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's just so crazy to think about because that's ultimately what it was, But I mean, I'm glad we're here, but at the same time, what a brutal history, It is a brutal history. And they, you mentioned guns, and I guess we can talk a minute about the guns that they had. Sure.
So the militia had something called the Kentucky long rifle. Okay. And if you want to say that there's any gun that conquered the frontier, it's the Kentucky long rifle.
What for?
Well, that became the weapon of choice for pretty much all the frontiersmen. And it was a relatively new rifle. Mm-hmm. It was longer than the muskets that the French and the British had. And it could shoot further and with greater accuracy.
Okay.
Great for hunting.
Mm-hmm.
Great for hunting. Now, it took longer to reload than the muskets that the French and the British had, but it was more accurate. And so you couldn't get as many shots off, but your shots were way more accurate and they could go farther.
Sure.
And so the Shawnee, they were fighting with French muskets, which are more powerful. They're devastating at close range. You get hit by one of those, you're not walking away. But they're not that accurate from a long distance. And so that Kentucky long rifle makes all the difference out on the frontier.
Yeah, you can be farther away and then be more accurate at the same time.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So,
all right, so Cornstalk said, let's make peace. And it, you know, I don't want to spoil it. No spoilers. It's been 200 years or whatever, but go ahead.
yeah. So they make peace. They vote on peace, and Cornstalk goes to meet with Lord Dunmore. And Dunmore makes a camp somewhere between the Ohio River and Chillicothe, Ohio. He calls it Camp Charlotte. It might have been named after his wife. His wife's name was Charlotte, but the wife of the queen's name was Charlotte too. The King George's wife was named Charlotte. So there's this dispute about what he named it after. Doesn't really matter. He called it Camp Charlotte. And Dunmore's there. Lewis and his men, they spend a week at Point Pleasant getting their wounded patched up and kind of repairing the damage and stuff of the battle and kind of licking their wounds. And then they begin to make their way north to try to find Dunmore. And they want revenge. Like, they're ready to go into the Shawnee villages and start killing. Because a lot of them lost friends. Andrew Lewis lost his brother, was killed. And you know, they want blood. And I should say something about that. We think about this in terms of conquering and the big picture sometimes, but on the small level, on the individual level, a lot of these guys are Scottish and they're Irish. In fact, most of the folks at the Battle of Point Pleasant were Scottish or Irish. Okay,
sure. And
if you come from Scotland or Ireland back in the 1700s and before, hungry and blood feuds too. If somebody kills somebody in your family, it's your obligation to go after them. And, you know, they had their feuds in Scotland, just like we had our feuds in the mountains.
Right.
And, you know, somebody kills somebody else, and then somebody else retaliates, and then you get this back and forth family feuds that sometimes will go on for generations.
I wonder who the Hatfield McCoys of over there would be.
The McCullochs and the McLeans.
Perfect. Okay. I'll have to look that up.
I took a group of students to Scotland and Ireland this past summer. And we went up into the Highlands, and we went up to the pot where they had one of the big Scottish feuds.
Oh, cool.
Up there, which was really cool.
Yeah.
Dunmore. So they have. So if your brother gets killed on the frontier, for their culture, you've got to retaliate. So they want blood. Dunmore, however, is having a change of heart. Now, he was Scottish also, but he was Scottish nobility. He was an interesting guy in his own right. He was born in Scotland, and he was at the Battle of Culloden, which I took my students there to the Culloden battlefield in Scotland. That's the last battle that was ever fought on British soil.
Oh, wow.
1746. And have you heard of the show Outlander?
I've heard of it. I haven't watched it.
And it's on Netflix.
Yeah.
And it deals with this whole Culloden and all what's called the Jacobite revolts against the English. It's a long story.
Sure.
But
I'll check it out.
Dunmore, as a teenager, was at that battle. The last battle fought on British soil. He was a page for the Scottish commander, a guy that they called Bonnie Prince Charlie. Well, and so he was imprisoned in the Tower of London after the battle as a teenager, but he later gets set free by the king, and then goes into the army and distinguishes himself. And then later gets appointed governor of Virginia. He's wearing his kilt, by the way, during this whole thing.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And they were like, what's this guy doing? Walking around with his kilt, but he was all into that.
Sure.
So he's over there at Camp Charlotte, and Cornstalk and Logan and Blackfish and some of the other major chiefs and a number of the warriors go up to meet with Dunmore. Dunmore won't allow Lewis and his men. He sends messengers to him and says, stay away from the camp. I don't want you all anywhere near the Native Americans because I don't want more violence to break out. And Lewis is furious at this. The militia are furious that they get turned back. But anyway, they make an agreement there. Cornstalk gives a big speech there, by the way, to Lord Dunmore and the whole officer corps. He was supposed to be a great speaker, by the way. One of the guys that was there said that, he later on in life, he said he'd heard Patrick Henry and Thomas Jefferson and James Madison. None of them were as good of a speaker as Cornstalk.
Mm-hmm.
So he must have been quite the guy.
Well, and this, I don't want to bounce away too much, but how did they start interacting? Like, what language did
they had translators?
Okay, so
but Cornstalk could speak English.
Okay,
and Logan could speak English. So a number of them could speak English, but they also had translators.
Right. I mean, that's impressive back then to be able to speak well, and it's not your native language.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's. I mean, back then, you didn't have a Rosetta Stone laying around that you just hook up. But
yeah. I'm horrible. If you're like me, did you have to take Spanish in school?
I took French.
Okay. Yeah.
And I was terrible. I still know the national anthem, I think. But that's it. I took 2 versions of it, and I don't know how I passed, but somehow, thank the Lord.
Yeah, I had Spanish, and I learned just enough Spanish to go to Spain and order food wrong.
Nice. Well, they say you got to get immersed to really learn, and I'm too lazy.
Yeah.
But I've always, I hope that my kid becomes the first one that becomes bilingual in the family, but we'll see. But yeah.
So they make a treaty. Cornstalk. Logan makes his a very famous speech. Or actually, he doesn't speak it. He gives it or writes it down and gives it because Logan won't go out and meet with him. Logan stays in his not his teepee, but he stays in his place and won't go out to talk. He's still kind of ticked over everything that's happened.
Sure.
And rightfully so. But if you go to Chief Logan State Park, they've got that big speech engraved somewhere.
Oh, cool.
And it's Logan is basically calling out the hypocrisy of the settlers because he's saying like, you guys are claiming to be Christian and this is and this is what you're doing. And he talks about, who's there to lament for Logan. No, not one. I stand alone. And he talks about,
Logan's lament.
Yes.
Got it.
Yeah. And so, but for whatever reason, Dunmore is really lenient and says, and basically just asked Native Americans to return hostages and horses that they stole. And then says, we'll keep to our boundary on the Ohio River, but the Shawnee and the Delaware, you can't go past the Ohio to hunt anymore. You got to agree to never hunt past the Ohio, and they do. And so Lewis and the other militia are furious at this. They're furious at these terms because they wanted to keep going. But Dunmore is saying, no, we're just going to abide by the Treaty of Fort Stanwix, which was signed a few years ago, and make sure Native Americans can't go any further. Now, this is like an about face from what Dunmore was saying when everything started.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody's trying to figure out what's going on. Why was he make this change? And it's because of what was going on in Philadelphia at the same time. Because at the very same time that the Battle of Point Pleasant was going on, you had the First Continental Congress had just convened in Philadelphia with George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Patrick Henry, Ben Franklin, John Hancock, the whole crew.
Sure.
Right?
The boys.
The founding boys.
Yeah.
So they're all there. For their grievances against England for what's going on up and around Boston. They don't declare independence yet, but they send a petition to King George. We want these taxes taken away. And there was military rule in Boston and all kinds of rape and property confiscation going on up there with British soldiers. They're trying to get that taken care of and get the British to, lay off. But obviously that doesn't work out. But what Dunmore is thinking, there might be a war soon, and I might need the Native Americans as allies, because Dunmore is he's no pro-colonist. He's not pro-American. He's pro-British.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, pro-British government. And so he wants, if there's going to be a war, he wants the Native Americans on the side of the English, which almost all of them do side with the English during the American Revolution.
Sure.
So, when Lewis and them get back to, they're heading back home after the battle, and they stop at a place called Fort Dower, and they make out a big resolution because they hear about the Continental Congress in Philadelphia. And so they issued their own proclamation. And I brought it.
Sure,
I wanted to read part of it.
I'm down.
Just so I would get it right. So he's talking about that. They say, and I'm quoting, "We will exert every power within us for the defense of American liberty. When it is considered that we can live for weeks without bread or salt, we can sleep in the open air without any covering but that of the canopy of heaven. Our men can march and shoot with any in the known world. Let us solemnly engage to one another that we will use them to no purpose for the honor and advantage of America in general and Virginia in particular." So they're saying right up, we're the best fighters. We can sleep out in the open. We can track. We can hunt. You don't want to mess with us. And even though all this stuff is going on way up in Boston, we'll be there if need be.
Yeah, the Tea Party.
Yeah.
Stuff.
Yeah, and all the other Western Virginia counties, all the other West immediately then make their own declarations. And they're saying stuff like, we've got our guns and our tomahawks are ready to go. And they use the term tomahawks too, because a lot of these frontiersmen use tomahawks.
Right.
As well as the rifles. And so it's kind of interesting when people think about Appalachian stereotypes, the idea of the mountaineer. This is where that's born.
Sure.
Right? The coonskin hat, the long rifle, the horn, of gunpowder, what you see when you go up to WVU's campus, right? And people sometimes make the claim that, those stereotypes started up around the mine wars, but they're actually started up way before that during the Revolution.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not really imposed on West Virginians from outsiders. They're saying themselves, we can hunt and fight and scrap with anybody, and our guns are ready and we're ready to go.
Yeah, well, think about it this way. Like, the terrain was so impactful on someone's health and their how they could, their strength.
Mm-hmm.
Just navigating the terrain your whole life instead of a flat land somewhere is going to make you way more hardcore than someone else if you're able, like with pressure becomes diamonds type thing.
Yeah.
So,
if you can survive out here, you're
sure.
You're pretty tough.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And to prove it, obviously, a few months after this, the Revolutionary War breaks out. You have Lexington and Concord happen outside of Boston, and now the war is on. And everything starts up in and around Boston, okay? Now, one of the reasons Point Pleasant is so important is because the Shawnee and the other tribes, they agree to those terms. And so for the first 3 years of the war, they stay kind of neutral.
Mm-hmm.
Until 1770, I say first 3 years. From 1774, when they did the treaty, until 77, they stay, neutral. What that does, it allows for a little bit of peace in West Virginia, but it enables a lot of the militia here to go fight with the Continental Army, with George Washington. Okay, after everything hits the fan in Boston, and George Washington, is named commander of the Continental Army, and goes up there, the Virginia militia formed together, and a huge chunk of them, if not the majority of them, were from West Virginia. And they make what's called the Beeline March. They march from basically around the area of Harper's Ferry to Boston, 600 miles, 25 days.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, we were talking about tough. 600 miles in 25 days. And
it's like 2 marathons a day.
Yeah.
Or I don't even know.
I did it with my calculator when I was on my way up here. It's 24 miles a day.
Wow.
24 miles a day.
And this isn't like walking the sidewalk.
No.
Yeah.
No horses. They didn't have horses. They marched. And it's called the Beeline March. They march all the way up to Boston to participate. And a lot of these guys, And by the way, like the guys at Point Pleasant, a lot of those guys would go on to become famous that fought at Point Pleasant.
Mhm.
I mentioned Andrew Lewis, and there's some other guys there. But one guy, or a number of guys, the first governor of Kentucky was at the Battle of Point Pleasant. I forget his name. A future governor of Mississippi and a future governor of Georgia were all fought at the Battle of Point Pleasant.
Wow.
And several guys who became U.S. senators from Virginia were at Point Pleasant. You don't think of, when you think of politicians.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know,
You don't, politicians now, like back then they had like literal resumes. Like,
Yeah.
it's like, oh, wow, they're an impressive person. They should lead us. Now it's like, who can talk the best?
Yeah.
Can you raise money? You know what I mean?
Yeah, who can get the most attention with their tweets.
Exactly. Exactly.
Or be most controversial or exciting. Or,
Yeah, which is depressing. It's a popularity contest, but back then it was like, can you feed people and keep us alive?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I think you should make decisions.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But I digress. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So you have Western Virginians that participate in all kinds of different battles, big battles during the Revolution, like Saratoga, Brandywine, Yorktown, Kings Mountain. So you have a lot of West Virginians that are out there fighting in major battles. But
Yeah, baby dog out there. No, that's stupid. All right,
yeah,
go ahead.
Baby Dog's ancestor.
Yeah. He's out there like, I'm going to get him. But yeah, go ahead.
He had a little hat on. You need to take Baby Dog and superimpose one of the colonial coonskin hats on him.
Oh, yeah. Well, we can make a mural. They already did it. So we can make another one.
Oh, yeah.
I'm down.
Yeah.
But
He's
yeah.
more popular than his owner.
That's right.
So things remain peaceful until 1777 on West Virginia. And they call it the year of the Bloody Sevens. And it was a bloody, bloody year. What's going on is ultimately the British are going to convince the Native Americans to abandon their treaties with the colonists, their neutrality, and join the British side. The British are still in control of Detroit. Okay. They have a big outpost there, and they are arming the Native Americans and paying them money. They offer them reward money for scalps. So if you go for every scalp you bring back, we'll give you so many furs and so many guns for each scalp that you bring in.
It's like 1700s DoorDash.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like, okay.
Yeah, yeah. Exactly, just like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
Colonial DoorDash. And the reason the reason it's so important for the British at this time is the war is moving south. It starts up around Boston, and then it kind of moves south to New York. And the Battle of New York, which we lose badly. Washington barely escapes New York. And then in 1777, the British move further south to take Philadelphia. And of course, Philadelphia is far enough south, it's, right along the lines of the Appalachian Mountains. They don't want the Virginia militia and all the frontiersmen to be able to help defend Philadelphia and fight with the colonial army. So they want the Native Americans to stir up a bunch of crap on the settlements in the mountains. So the militia will have to come back and they won't be able to help.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what they do. They they lead a number of attacks on settlements, and they lead a big attack on Fort Henry, which is Wheeling, West Virginia. It was named after Patrick Henry.
Mm-hmm.
The fort is in downtown Wheeling, or where the fort was. I think they got one of those historical markers.
Oh, really?
there.
Yeah, I have to go check that out.
So they attack Fort Henry in 1777. A number of cool things happen. Well, I wouldn't say cool, but interesting things happen during the attack on the fort. You had this guy named McCulloch, who makes it's been exaggerated, but the way the story goes is him and a number of others were trying to get into the fort to help relieve the people that were there, and they the natives chase him up to the top of a ridgeline. in what's now Wheeling by the river, and he doesn't have any escape. So him and his horse leap off the edge and go into the river.
Like Thelma and Louise style?
Yeah.
Did he know he was going to die?
No,
Or was it
he
that high?
lived.
Okay.
He lived. It's called McCulloch's Leap.
Nice.
And I think there's a marker there. We don't know if he actually leaped, because when you look at the hill, if he had a really, really good horse, he probably could have got down it that way.
Right.
And when you see the size of it, you're like, I mean, really?
Sounds cooler.
He left off that into the Ohio and survived.
He Bo and Luke Duke right off that thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it paused.
In reality, he was like one half inch at a time. Like, okay, buddy, let's go.
Yeah.
It's more epic.
Yeah, I love I love the Dukes of Hazzard when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Love it. Whenever they would leap, it would always pause, and then the narrator would come in. Looks like the boys are in over their heads this time, and then
classic, dude.
Yeah,
classic. That guy actually. I can't remember if he played Bo or Luke, but he just shot a movie in West Virginia a few years ago about a boxer.
Oh yeah,
yeah. I can't remember the name of it, but anyway, he's still around.
I wonder what happened to those guys.
Yeah.
You know, the guy who played Boss Hogg was a decorated World War II veteran.
Really?
Yeah, Boss Hogg. You don't picture that when you look at him, do you?
I mean, thank you, sir. Thank you for your service.
Yeah. I picture him storming the beaches with the outfit on and the cigar.
Yeah. Well, people used to not brag. They just do stuff and then come back home and not talk about it.
Yeah, that generation, man.
Yeah.
But anyway, they attack Fort Henry. But they're unable to take the forts. There were the three big forts on the Ohio River that were supposed to protect the settlers. Was Fort Pitt, where Pittsburgh is, Fort Henry, where Wheeling is, and then later on Fort Randolph. That was where Point Pleasant is. It's now called the Fort Blair. They built this fort, but Donnelly had them abandon the fort. The Shawnee burn it down, and then a guy by the name of Matthew Arbuckle goes and builds another fort there, which they call Fort Randolph. And so that's at Point Pleasant. And they made a replica of Fort Randolph that's still there at Point Pleasant. In fact, there was a fire there about a week and a half ago.
Oh, okay. I was just there a few weeks ago. We didn't stop by there, though.
Yeah.
But we went to Cornstalk's Memorial. Yeah. I think he's actually buried there in a tomb.
Yeah.
From what I remember, yeah.
They do have a burial spot for him there. Yeah. So he gets murdered there. Yep. I'll get to that in a minute.
Sure.
So, but they fight them off. Now, there's a number of different massacres of settlers. A number of the soldiers, by the way, a little bit after the siege of Fort Henry, after they fight them off, they go out on a raiding party. A number of the militia and a number of them get ambushed. One of the great houses, the guys that murdered Cornstalk's Logan's family, got killed at that fight. It's called Foreman's Massacre. Near Grave Creek. Mm-hmm. Near Grave Creek is where that took place. But ultimately, the Native Americans were never able to take these forts. I mean, and that was the big difference maker, other than the Kentucky long rifle with these forts. Because if you don't have cannons, how are you going to break into these forts? And they don't have cannons.
Sure.
And also, if you don't have cannons, the only other way is to lay siege to it and starve them out. Right? But you can only do that if you have a supply chain. Native Americans, the Braves, they didn't have like European and Asian armies that would have these long supply chains, because you got to feed everybody while you lay siege.
Oh yeah,
you can't just depend on deer. If you've got, and they had I think 380 some Braves, and it was mostly, by the way, Delaware and Wyandotte at Fort Henry. I think Delaware and Wyandotte, or maybe Delaware or Wyandotte and Mingo. I don't know. But anyway, there wasn't very many Shawnee there. But anyway, point is they can't supply themselves. They can't feed themselves for very long. So after about a week or so, they have to leave because they don't have any food.
Yeah.
So they have to go. So if you don't have provisions to supply your army, and you don't have cannons, and you can't rush the fort and take it before they can close it off, you're in trouble. You can't, it's almost impossible to take these forts. So, and ultimately they attack a bunch of forts over the course of the Revolutionary War, but they're never able to take the forts. And that's the difference. Well, the Shawnee, who had been neutral, but also join up with the British. But Cornstalk, this is still in 1777. We're still in 77. And by the way, the attack on Fort Henry took place on September the 1st, 1777, which was right before, 10 days before the British attack on Philadelphia.
Oh, wow.
The battle
stuff's just popping off everywhere.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and that took place on September the 11th.
No way.
Yeah.
Wow.
September the 11th. Not a good day for us in American history.
Not.
We lose that battle, too, and they take Philadelphia.
Yeah. Yeah. Still is so I just told a story about calling 911. It's releasing tomorrow, so it'll be out by now. I called 911 to help find my wife. It was a crazy story. I'm not going to tangent, but long story short, I overreact and she's fine.
Okay.
But anyway, if y'all want to watch that, it's on the YouTube channel. But anyway, that's what made me think about. I mean, so ADHD, but I'm staying with you. So you had these two battles going on.
Yeah. You had Brandywine, which was the attack on Philadelphia, and then you had Fort Henry happening at the same time. And you also have the Native Americans beginning to go into the northern settlements, places around Morgantown, that region, going into that and attacking settlers there. And so you have a lot of that. Meanwhile, Cornstalk, he realizes that the Shawnee have now decided to join up with the British, but Cornstalk doesn't want to do this. He doesn't think that the British are going to win. And so he actually goes south. He goes down to Fort Randolph and meets the folks there. The guy in command at Fort Randolph is Matthew Arbuckle. Good old Matthew Arbuckle. He was he might have been, by the way, the first white man to go to Cabin Creek and really explore the Kanawha Valley.
Really?
And he also built a fort on my family's land. It's called Fort Arbuckle. John Keeney, who was my ancestor, who he and his family were living there at the time, and they built a fort there on their property. But anyway, Arbuckle's out at Fort Randolph, and Cornstalk shows up and says the Shawnee are coming. The Shawnee are going to go on the warpath against you, and I can't stop them. Arbuckle makes the decision to. He was with another guy by the name of Red Hawk. And Arbuckle makes the decision to kind of hold them hostage, and thinking that will keep the Shawnee on good behavior. If we've got your chief hostage, maybe you won't attack anything. Mm-hmm. Okay? So he takes them hostage and keeps them in the fort. And about a day or two after this, a whole bunch of new Virginia militia show up at the fort. Okay? These guys were supposed to take part in another expedition that never even happens, but they show up. Okay. And these guys are from the areas where Cornstalk had raided that few years before in 1763 that I told you about earlier. Some of these really, really brutal raids.
Sure.
And a lot of these guys knew who Cornstalk was because he'd killed some of their family members. And
so everybody's madder than hell.
Yes. And then the day after the militia get there, two of the militia go out to hunt out of the fort, and one of them gets captured and killed and scalped by a number of Indians. Don't know which tribe, but it didn't matter. One of them gets killed, and then the other the other guy runs back, and then the other militia burst into the fort. And Arbuckle gets in the way of them, and it's like, you can't do this. You can't. This guy, Cornstalk, and by the way, Cornstalk's son was there too. He had come along, and his son was there. Another guy named Blackfish, not Blackfish, Red Hawk. Sorry, I'm gonna.
No, yeah. I mean,
names.
These are epic names. First off, shout out to them.
Yeah, cool names.
Yeah.
Arbuckle's like, you can't do this. So these guys want peace. They have nothing to do with what happened outside. And they point their guns at Arbuckle and said, look, you can either step aside or we're taking you with them. And so Arbuckle steps aside and they go in and murder Cornstalk and his son and Red Hawk. And it's supposedly during right before they come in and shoot him that Cornstalk supposedly issues his famous curse.
Yep.
Cornstalk's curse, cursing the ground there at Point Pleasant, which would, if you believe the folklore, which would, lead to Mothman and the
Silver Bridge.
Yeah, and the bridge and all that stuff.
There's a lot of depressing things in Mason County. There's a lot of beauty too, but there was a jail bombing in '76. It was a suicide pact that these two people had because they killed their baby together. Yeah, it was nuts. But yeah, sorry, don't mean to tangent, but there's been a lot of things in Point Pleasant.
It's a unique place.
Yeah,
it's a really unique place. I really like Point Pleasant.
They have a Mothman pizza.
I saw you. I should try that.
Yeah, it's good stuff. I highly recommend. It's a fun time.
Yeah, I have to go. I've never been to the Mothman Museum. I've been to Point Pleasant a number of times, but I've never been to the museum.
Dude, the owner, Jeff Wamsley, I'm trying to get him in here, but yeah, that started in '06, and it's crazy now. There's like 30,000 people that come to that festival every year now.
Wow.
I think they had over 30,000 this last one.
Wow.
It's nuts. But yeah.
Wow.
So Cornstalk curses the land.
And then they go through the door and they put 6 or 7 bullets in him. Kill his son and then Red Hawk. So they murder them all right there.
It wasn't like a battle. It was like they were meeting to talk and then they killed him.
Yes.
Correct?
Yep. Okay. Straight up murder.
Yep.
Straight up murder. They murder Cornstalk. Everybody that's people are obviously the Shawnee are losing their minds over this, but everybody else thought it was an awful thing too. Patrick Henry, who was governor of Virginia, the colonial governor now, the give me liberty or give me death, the guy, he wants to put all the militia on trial. And several of them do get put on trial, get arrested and put on trial after this, but the local courts acquit them. So they never do any time for it, but they do arrest some of them and put them on trial after this. But Cornstalk was thought of even by his enemies as a great warrior and a great man. And he's kind of one of the tragic heroes of this history. How he was, a great speaker, a great leader, who did everything he can just to, for his people to survive.
Sure.
And I mean, he led some pretty vicious, brutal attacks on the settlements. But, it was a vicious and brutal time.
Yeah.
The way the Shawnee and the Mingo and these other tribes, they're fighting for their lives. They're fighting for their land and their homes. And they know if they come out on the losing end of this conflict, it's all over for them.
Well, imagine you're here chilling for however long, and then boats start showing up, and people you never knew existed start coming into your community, and then start murdering your people. I mean, what would anyone do today?
Right.
The same thing. Now, granted, people were, I don't know, arguably more athletic then. I don't know. Like, I know it was basically if you didn't hunt, you didn't live.
Right.
It wasn't like, oh, well, I thank God for chicken nuggets every day because a lot of people are against factory farming. But I tell you what, man, a lot of people used to die of starvation.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
That's right.
Something's better than nothing.
Yes. It takes a lot of chickens to feed, 300 plus million people.
Oh, yeah. Now, the way we do it, it's not fun all the time. And I disagree with the way some of it's done. But at the same time, how do you feed 1 billion people? Like, how do you feed, 300 million in America, whatever. There's so many ins and outs to it that we just don't think about.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, I'd love to eat organic, but at the same time, a carrot's $15 and
yeah,
that's not real life. I mean,
right.
It'd be great, but at the same time, how are you going to feed all these people? So anyway, I'm off my soapbox, but I put myself in their shoes of like, your family starts getting slaughtered. Way of communication. I mean, we just think today, I could post a video today and it'll reach, could reach 100,000 people in a day.
Mm-hmm.
Back then, like, you'd be lucky to reach 100 people
right
in a day. Just relaying messages was that hard.
Yeah.
So I can imagine the law. We still, are lost in translation today. So I could imagine how much is lost between two completely different, groups of people.
Yeah.
Different ways of life. And,
Yeah. And so, you can't blame Cornstalk for being who he was and what he was. And he was greatly admired by his enemies, particularly by the militia who fought against him at Point Pleasant. People after the battle talked about how brave Cornstalk was. By the way, Cornstalk killed one of his own men in the Battle of Point Pleasant. He told his braves, if anybody runs, you got to deal with my tomahawk. And there was a guy up front in the battle, and there were militia that saw this, and he gets up and starts to run, and Cornstalk
oh, wow.
nails him in the skull.
Well, it's treason, kind of. I mean, not real. I mean, you're blatantly ignoring the rules of your leader.
Yeah.
So, but at the same time, it's pretty raw.
Yeah. It's pretty raw. And Cornstalk, he didn't want to go to war at Point Pleasant, but everybody told him, we want war, we want to attack. And so he said, well, if we're going to fight, you're going to fight.
Right.
And so if anybody runs, you got to deal with me. And one guy tried to, and Cornstalk,
Whoops.
Yeah. Yeah. Gave him the Jack Nicholson, here's Johnny treatment.
Yeah. And it seems like we have collectively admitted that this was wrong, and we memorialized him. That's why there's a memorial there today. I just don't have faith in us doing that anymore. I don't feel like we can admit when we're wrong anymore.
It's hard to.
You know what I mean?
A lot of pride now.
A lot of it.
A lot of pride.
Which can be good, but also can be very, very bad.
Yeah. You can't grow unless you're able to admit when you're wrong.
Sure. Yeah. Well, and the parallels, just hearing the story unfold as we're going, the parallels to today are honestly pretty terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, the parallels of I could DoorDash a toothbrush to my house this evening compared to some, Larry or Fred forming a faction to come and kill my entire family. I'd definitely take the DoorDashing of the toothbrush.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway.
Yeah. Could you imagine if we were in this, in the 1770s and we had to go through this cold spell that we just went through, without any electricity, of no running water anywhere, just in cabins out here in the mountains.
Yeah. I know a lot of people are in tune with nature. I'm not. I need to be. But yeah, I just think okay, let me go outside and start a fire. I can't do it. There's a lot of people I know that can.
Got a nice fire behind you.
I mean, yeah, look at that.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
It's beautiful, right?
Yeah.
I started this one myself. But even my friends that deer hunt, they have $800 bows.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't just let me sharpen this stone, put it on a stick, and run out and try to do something with it.
Yeah. You got your $800 bow, your even more expensive tree stand.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you gotta have, and you cover yourself in deer piss, right. And then you still don't kill one. Right. People back then, literally, they had to die. Yeah,
you had to.
That's a whole new thing, and that's why they used the whole thing too. I mean, they used the entire animal. Now it's let me get the horns and.
Yeah,
we'll give the rest away.
Yeah, a lot of people give. I get a lot of deer meat given to me.
Oh yeah,
during deer hunting season. I haven't been hunting since I was a teenager. Not that I have anything against hunting. I just don't have time.
Oh yeah, I love it. I love eating it. I just I'm no good at it. It took me an hour and a half to skin a squirrel, so it's not for me.
Yeah,
but I need to work on that a little bit.
Yeah, me too. I've been squirrel hunting since I was a teenager. It's no.
I just imagine back then as someone goes to the table and they're like, how was that deer? Was it ethically butchered? Because I don't want to have any part of it unless you did the correct way of the humane way of killing the deer. And then they just look at him or like, what are you talking about? Jimmy Joe just died of starvation and you're going to complain about my deer. But anyway,
yeah.
It's just the daylight and dark compared to what it used to be.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I mean, obviously it's not perfect now. There's a lot of devastation going on, but I just think it's stuff like this, and it's gives me a good perspective.
Yeah, it certainly does. You think about how long would you have lasted?
Oh, 7 hours. Yeah, it wouldn't have been long. They'd be like, yeah, we're done with him. Like, we got to get rid of JD.
Where's the nuggets?
Yeah.
Where's
None of my jokes would land. No one has a sense of humor. Everyone smells like dog food.
Wait, you're describing one of my classrooms when I was at WVU.
Right. Oh, man. But
none of my jokes would land. Nobody's paying attention. It smells bad.
Yeah, you got to bomb every now and then.
Yeah.
It'll help you grow.
Yeah, they don't give my students don't get my movie references anymore because I'm old now. And so sometimes I give them a list of movies I want them to watch. Have nothing to do with the class, just if they'll get my jokes.
Right.
Like, you got to watch the Godfather movies. You got to see.
Someone will tell you, like, I haven't heard of Mate One. What is that? And you're like, what? Yeah. What did you just say? Yeah. Get out of my class. But
yeah. So, okay. So they kill Cornstalk. It's November the 10th.
R.I.P.
November the 10th, 1777. And this, of course, naturally is going to lead to all these reprisals. Now you got a new chief that's really in charge of the Shawnee forces, Blackfish, not the Blackfish from Game of Thrones.
Right.
Who was a really cool character, by the way.
Sure, yeah. Oh, there's 1,000 characters on that show.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
Yeah. But Blackfish wanted war all along. He was very different than Cornstalk. He was like, we've got to fight. There's no peace with these guys. We've got to fight. And so Blackfish leads, first of all, he goes down that there's a few settlements in Kentucky, and Blackfish has his fighting against Daniel Boone, who's out in Kentucky at this time. And that's a whole nother saga.
Sure.
But Blackfish raises up a number of warriors again. Some sources say 200, some say 300. But we'll say between 200 and 300 braves. And he goes and attacks Fort Randolph, okay, in the spring of 1778. And we were just talking winter. That winter of 1777, 78 was a brutal winter in North America. That was Valley Forge. Up in Pennsylvania, Washington and his men were all nearly starving at Valley Forge. They lost over 2,000 men at Valley Forge to malnutrition and hunger and disease of Washington's forces up there. The same time that was going on, you had a little garrison down here at Fort Randolph, and I think 13 of them died of smallpox. They were running low on food and provisions and things like that. But and they're bracing for the inevitable, which was they knew that the Shawnee were coming because, we killed Cornstalk. So they knew it was coming. Mm-hmm. They knew it was going to happen. And of course it does. In May of 1777, here they come. They try to draw the people out of the fort so that they can kill them. One of the tactics that the Shawnee would do is they would go up to a fort and then fire on it for a little bit and then run away as though they were retreating, hoping that they would come out of the fort and give chase, and then they would lead them into a trap. Mm-hmm. And that worked the first couple of times they did that. But by the time May of 1778 rolls around, they're not falling for that anymore in the fort. They're like, we're not coming out. They do send out Cornstalk's sister. Okay. Cornstalk's sister. Non-Helima was her name. And that's a big, crazy name. Non-Helima was the name of Cornstalk's sister. Sometimes she was called the Grenadier because she was supposedly around 6'6".
Oh, wow.
Yes, she could dominate the WNBA if she were alive today.
I didn't know people got that tall back then.
Yeah. She would have towered over everyone back then.
Average is 5'2", and they're like, "Whoa, hey, Nondalima, what's her name?"
yeah, Nondalima. And she had gotten romantically involved with one of the white officers, and so was on the side of the militia at this point in time. And so she's staying at the fort. And so she goes out and tries to parlay with Blackfish and the Shawnee, and they're like, no, we've got to attack the fort. Or we want them to surrender. And they're like, no, they're not going to surrender. So then the little siege begins for a week or so. and I've mentioned these sieges before, and something I didn't mention about them is what enabled the settlers to make it in those forts was salt. So the most important commodity on the frontier was salt.
Right.
Because that's how you preserved your meat. And if you had enough salt and you had some animals in the fort, some pigs, a couple of cows that were, that you had in the fort, you could butcher that and then salt up the meat. And then you could had enough provisions to make it through the siege.
Gotcha.
It was all about whether or not you had salt. Salt was more valuable than gold on the frontier. And it was valuable in all societies before refrigeration came around. Roman soldiers were sometimes paid in salt.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
You ever heard that statement, you're worth your salt?
No, I have not. That makes sense, though.
Yeah. Or he's worth the salt or salt of the earth.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
That kind of stuff. It's in reference to how valuable salt was.
Right. Okay.
As a preservative for meat. So if you had enough salt, you could make it through the siege.
Interesting. So someone says you're the salt of the earth. I mean, I've said it before. It just means we can't live without you.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah.
How cool.
Yeah. You can't live without salt. At least back then. I couldn't live without salt today, not for preserving meat, but I salt everything.
Oh, yeah, man. It's the best.
Yeah. Just salt green apples growing up.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I think I put it on watermelon.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Salt
That's
watermelon.
Good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good
My uncle
stuff.
had a watermelon patch. And I used to cut watermelons up all summer, and I would always salt mine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, son.
Yeah. So, they're unable to take Fort Randolph. And so they're like, okay, we can't take this fort, so we're going to continue on, and we're going to go on into the Greenbrier Valley, which there hadn't been raids on the Greenbrier Valley in a number of years, but they're going on into the Greenbrier Valley, and they're headed towards, I guess, modern-day Lewisburg and that whole area, and headed towards the settlements there. Well, the folks at Fort Randolph are like, we got to warn the settlers that, that there's a huge party headed their way. And they're like, well, how do we get through? Well, the other guys have a head start. What are we going to do? Well, Nanhelema, she gets a couple of the militiamen, a couple of volunteers, and she dresses them up as Shawnee, like puts war paint on them and gives them the correct garb and stuff. So if they get spotted, they'll get mistaken for fellow Shawnee. Okay, so she gives them the proper paint and everything, and then they head out of there, and they're somehow able to make it through and get to the Greenbrier settlements before the big war party comes through. And they all go into a little place called Fort Donnelly, everybody there. And they also send some more people. Fort Donnelly's not where Lewisburg is. It's before you get to Lewisburg. And you can find the site of the fort now, but there's just a marker there. It's a cow pasture now.
Right.
But everybody goes into the fort, and the natives, they decide instead of trying to attack with their guns, they're going to try to sneak up on the fort in the morning. And they still have the doors of the fort open, and most of the community, is gathered in there. And so they go real early in the morning, but as it so happens, somebody saw them. And in this case, it was a slave, a guy by the name of Dick Pointer. That's what they called him. He was an older.
Cool name.
Yeah. He sees them coming and shuts the doors and rolls a big water barrel in front of, to hold them off. Right. And they're hacking at the door with their axes. By the way, he shoots his gun and like kills a couple of them, and then shuts the door, and they move a water from it. It's actually Dick Pointer that saves Fort Donnelly. In fact, the local community there made a memorial for him after he died and everything. And they petitioned for him. Now he later was freed, but the whole community petitioned the governor of Virginia to the government of Virginia to give him some land and a house because of his heroics at the fort. But anyway, again, they're held up at the fort. In this case, the Native Americans actually try to dig underneath the fort and get into it that way. But a relief group led by Arbuckle arrives and drives off the natives and then kills 17 of them in a firefight there and forces them out again. And after this, that's kind of the last of the major attacks in the Greenbrier Valley. And by this time, it's now 1778, and the war continues to move further and further south. By this time, Mel Gibson's involved.
Yeah. Which Patriot Mel Gibson or Braveheart?
Patriot Mel Gibson.
Okay, gotcha.
Patriot Mel Gibson. If you've ever seen the old Patriot movie.
Oh, so good.
Yeah. That movie takes place, of course, at the last couple of years of the war when the British invade South Carolina, right? And Mel Gibson plays, the guerrilla leader that, harasses the British over there. Him and Chris Cooper, who was in Mate 1.
Oh, yeah.
Is also in that movie.
Yep. And also did the voiceover at the Mine Wars for the...
for Mate 1, for the Mate 1 exhibit. Yeah, he and I worked together. I wrote it up and he read it.
Yeah, and then I edited it. So hey, small world.
Yeah. Yeah. It's cool to say we've worked with an Academy Award winning actor.
I know,
right?
dude. Yeah. I was listening and I was like, that's him. When you sent me y'all sent me the audio files, I was like, that's the dude.
Yeah, cool. That's cool to say.
Yeah.
Even though it's a little project, I can always say an Academy Award winning actor has read my work.
Oh,
know,
it's super cool.
Yeah.
So, and what was his name in there? In that, so that's a real life guy that Mel Gibson played.
Yes.
What's his name?
Daniel. Is it Daniel something?
I'm gonna look it up.
You've got to look that up.
Yeah,
you've got to look that up. So they invade south. A lot of the Virginia militia are going to play a role in the Battle of Kings Mountain, which is a really important battle towards the end of the war that kind of drives the last of the British out of the mountains.
Benjamin Martin.
I've seen Daniel. I don't know what Daniel was.
I mean, there's a lot of Daniels too. Could have been. Yeah,
Benjamin Martin. Yeah, and Mel Gibson. I need to watch that again.
Oh man, I watched it literally. It was probably 2 or 3 weeks ago, and it is so good. I mean, think what you want about him. The dude is an actor. Yeah. Any movie he's in just brings you right into the story. I love his movies.
Yeah, Braveheart. I saw Braveheart when I was 19 years old.
Braveheart is the Patriot with a kilt.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're just so good.
Yeah, it was really cool, and we're a little bit off topic, but who cares? I took my students to a lot of the battlefields that were, in Braveheart.
Oh, cool.
So we went to Sterling, and we went to Bannockburn. The last scene in Braveheart where he turns to him and goes, "You've bled with Wallace, now bleed with me." Yeah. And he throws the sword way up in the air. Yeah, I took my students to that site, the site of Bannockburn.
Wow.
And so we took them to the William Wallace Monument and all this kind of stuff. Yeah, I was ready to paint my face blue and
heck yeah,
and start running around.
Oh, anyone would watch that movie. I mean, you're ready to grab an axe and just go out and start chopping stuff, and then you're like, wait a minute. We have mini malls now. It's not really that big a deal,
That's right. That's right. You don't have you have the English doing prima nocta on your wife.
Yeah, it's like calm down. Yeah, for sure.
So, yeah, where were we?
Patriot.
The Patriot. Okay, so the war keeps moving further and further south. Ultimately, of course, the last big battle of the Revolution is Yorktown, Virginia. And you have some Western Virginians that are in that battle. This is the last major battle of the Revolution. This is where Cornwallis's army.
What year is this?
1781.
Okay.
It's the last major battle of the Revolution. And it's the late summer, I believe, of 1781. The French finally show up. That's the last sequence in the Patriot, where Cornwallis has to surrender, and the French Navy finally shows up and blocks him in there.
And he's like, "Trust the French." Yes, indeed, trust the French.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So good.
So, for all intents and purposes, the Revolutionary War is over at this point. but there's still going to be some violence out on the frontier. And the last actual battle that takes place, and it might be, this is disputed a little bit, but it might be the actual last battle of the American Revolution took place in what is now West Virginia. And that is the second siege of Fort Henry. They go after Fort Henry again, and there's some British there at this second siege. And this is also on September the 11th. Another September.
No way.
Another September the 11th. This is 1782. Okay, so it's a ways after it, but there's still stuff going on way out on the frontier. And in this siege of Fort Henry, you have a family that's in Fort Henry, the Zane family. Okay, and I got to get into the legend of Betty Zane.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, and so they lay siege to the fort, and it's a pretty intense fight. Lots of guns, lots of shooting taking place, and according to the story, they're running out of ammo. They're running out of gunpowder inside the fort, and so they're about to be in real trouble. The Zane household, their cabin, was about 40 yards or so from the fort. Okay. And the natives are nearby, and they're firing everything on the outskirts, trying to stay out of rifle range, right? And they're running out, and everybody's still firing. And Zane, I forget the first name of the guy that was running the fort, but his little sister, Betty Zane, she was a teenager, approximately between the ages of 13 and 15. She volunteers to go get more gunpowder. They have more gunpowder in their cabin, which is 40 yards outside the fort. And she, as a teenage girl, volunteers to run out and try to get some and run back. Okay? So they start to lay down covering fire, and off she goes, right? Out of the fort, and starts running towards the cabin. According to the story, the natives are so shocked at this, they don't fire at her at first, because they're like, what's this little girl doing running across the field? Is she going crazy? What's going on with this? And she runs and jumps into the window of the cabin. And there's several different versions of the story, but in the version that I like, sure. Since we don't really know what exactly happened, she takes a bunch of gunpowder and pours it into her dress, right? Pulls her dress up and pours a bunch of gunpowder into her dress, and then runs back across, with her dress up, carrying the gunpowder. Wow. Well, this time they're shooting at her on the way back because they figure out what she's doing. But she makes it through. Imagine if one of those, bullets hits the gunpowder. Yeah.
I also heard the legend I like is they barely had to convince her to put down her iPad.
Yeah, that's what happened was. Yeah, she was staring at her phone.
Yeah, she was like, this will be a good TikTok. Let me go and let me take off.
Yeah, she was filming herself.
Yeah, she's running
as she's going. You got to take the selfie.
Jesus. Oh, so stupid. But so that's really happened.
That's what we'd be doing today.
I know, right?
Here we are in the battle.
We would, yeah. Oh man, I'm just so tired. I don't know. And then they have, a little Wayne track on the background. And,
yeah,
they're trying to think of a new dance to do.
Yeah. So now there's been a lot of disputes of that story. Later on, there was another girl that claimed that it wasn't Betty Zane, that she was in the fort and it was her and not Betty Zane. And then some people have claimed that it didn't happen at all. I think it's a great story, though, and I think that it's not an impossible story. They would have needed more gunpowder. Somebody would have had to go get it.
Sure.
The I haven't talked much about women on the frontier in this whole thing, but the women out here were every bit as tough as the men, if not more so, just living out here. Particularly without birth control, you're cranking out, 8, 9, 10 kids, in places where you have no medical care. And you got to raise everybody. You got to. They shared chores. Men and women did. The division of labor wasn't as separate as what we think of it. People cooperated and did everything kind of together.
Right.
So I mean, the women are working hard just like the men are. In hard physical labor and doing things and taking care of the kids and cooking and cleaning and doing everything else that you got to do. So you had tough women out here.
Oh yeah, had to provide. But there's a lot of writings of women providing the bullets, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like being the ammo providers, and now later on in the mine wars. But even still, that was a role that was important.
Yeah, and they. There was a few, like the story of Mary Ingalls. Have you ever heard her story?
She in Little House on the Prairie? I don't know. Wasn't that Laura
she's the little girl that's running across the field.
She's like, hey, all right. Yeah, I'm running from the Shawnee.
There's a book about an old novel called Follow the River that deals with this. She was kidnapped by the Shawnee. This is before the Revolution.
Mm-hmm.
She was kidnapped by the Shawnee in the Greenbrier Valley, taken almost all the way to the Ohio River, and she escapes and finds her way back on foot to her settlement, where most of her family had already been butchered and killed.
Mm.
But there's a book written about her great escape, how she escaped, and I think she was barefoot too, but somehow ate roots and berries and things, on a trip. Imagine, walking barefoot, not really knowing where you are without any kind of, GPS or our phones to
follow the North Star. Like, I don't even know how you do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Then, made her way all the way back down the canal and then made her way all the way to the Greenbrier.
Yeah. Stick by the river. That makes sense.
But still making you all the way to Greenbrier County from, the Ohio River. Back in those days. And you also, you don't just have natives, you got wolves. There used to be tons of wolves here.
Mm-hmm.
The last wolf, I think, was killed here in the early 20th century.
Mm.
But there used to be lots of wolves here, lots of wolves. They couldn't, in fact, most of the settlers couldn't keep sheep because of the wolves.
Right.
They could keep cattle, but they didn't keep sheep a lot at first until a lot of the wolves get killed off.
Now, the Native Americans, so how did is this when they started ending up going west? Or has that been like...
Oh, are you talking about like the Indian Removal Act?
Yeah. So how did they start venturing west? Because at some point in time, wasn't the government offering free land and you would go out in the west and just...
the Homestead Act.
All of a sudden, you would just be massacred, your entire family would, by...
Yeah. Once, but that's a little bit further on down the road.
It's like 1800s, late 1800s.
Yeah. Once they issued the Homestead Act, though, they'd get the Louisiana Purchase in 1803, and they get the big middle section of the country, and then later on, Congress will pass the Homestead Act, which you can get 150 acres for free.
That's what it was. Yeah, and they go out there and like, oh, this is great, and then all of a sudden.
Yeah.
What tribes were out there?
Yeah, boy, you had the Cheyenne, you had the Sioux, the Lakota Sioux, you had the Crow, the Blackfeet. Those were all the plains and in the Rocky Mountains. There's a lot more tribes than that. And then, of course, further south, you had the Comanche and the Apache. And boy, you did not want to run into the Comanche. The Comanche were... granted, you wouldn't want to be captured by any of them, but the Comanche, the Comanche wouldn't just kill you; they would torture you to death. And they did this with everybody. They did this with other Native Americans too. They had their own empire, and they conquered a bunch of other tribes. They would take you and tie you down out there in the desert in the Texas, and they would cut your eyelids off.
Goodness,
like slice your eyelids off, and then hold you, put you down on your back to where you couldn't turn, and then just let the sun come up. And then the sun would just burn your eyes out.
Wow. Yeah. Angry people.
Yeah. But yeah, people are going to eventually start going out further west, and we keep referencing movies. It's an old movie, and it's not very popular anymore, but it was called Far and Away. Came out in the
Tom
90s.
Cruise?
Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman.
Yep.
That's right. And I believe Ron Howard directed it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's basically of them taking advantage of the Homestead Act and going out there.
Oh, really? I have to watch it again.
Yeah.
I watched it when I was a kid, and I just, didn't know anything.
Yeah.
Which I still don't, but I
haven't seen the movie in many, many years, but it starts out with them in Ireland. Tom Cruise working as this poor, peasant in Ireland, and they're like, hey, don't you know in America they're just giving land away? And so,
a lot of people didn't realize what was going on, right? They would just move out there thinking,
Right. Yeah, there's the catch, 150 acres for free. All you had to do was start a farm and it's yours for free. And everybody's like, you can't pass this deal up. And then you get out there and,
So the government knew that, right? What was the reason for them offering that? Was it to populate that area and kind of overtake that area?
Yeah. They want to populate the area and they want to turn that area into farmland.
Gotcha.
To feed everybody. And, the American Midwest, is pretty much the bread basket of the world to a certain degree. They don't just feed the United States, but you think about the enormous amount of aid in food and stuff that the United States sends annually to third world countries, which is tremendous amounts, but it all comes from the American Midwest.
Sure. And a lot of it is to feed the cows, right? Like to feed the farm animals.
Yeah. Feed the livestock.
Yeah.
Yeah. You think if everybody else talks about nuclear war or something like that, if you took out New York or LA, we could survive that. But if somebody dropped a bunch of nuclear bombs on Iowa and Nebraska, we'd be in real trouble.
Yeah, when you break it down to bare essentials like farmland and water.
Yeah.
Those are the two things.
Yeah.
And, obviously it'd be great to have rabbits and deer and all kinds of things running around you can shoot and eat. But yeah, for sure. I can see that. Hopefully we'll never have to find out. Good God. But
hopefully.
If there's one thing we're good at, though, it's destroying each other, unfortunately.
We are. Now, and as far as the revolution is concerned, of course, this is going to be horrible news for all the Native American tribes. They're never going to have any claim or any way to have the Appalachian Mountains again. They're going to be continually driven further west until the Indian Removal Act comes along, and they're all put on reservations.
Okay, when did that happen? So I was curious how we decided, like, okay, we're going to form reservations. They're going to be their own government. And then what's the deal with casinos? Like, is that part of it? Or is that just not a thing? Yeah.
Eventually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot there.
I was watching an old episode of The Sopranos the other day, and they were talking about the casinos on the reservations.
Mm-hmm.
And it made me think of The Sopranos. But it was 1830, and that was Andrew Jackson, President Andrew Jackson. He ran for president. He became famous as an Indian fighter. That's what made him famous during the War of 1812. He was the leader of the Tennessee Volunteers, the Tennessee Militia. Of course, that's why the University of Tennessee calls themselves the Volunteers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so Jackson led them, made a name for himself, fighting the Creek tribe and the Seminole. Jackson fought against the Seminole down in Florida. And he became famous that way, then ran for president. And he ran for president under the campaign promise of the Indian Removal Act. Like that was his campaign. I'm going to, and he was the founder of the Democratic Party, by the way, Andrew Jackson.
Really?
Yeah. Up until very recently, Democrats called themselves the Party of Jackson. That's not so politically correct to call yourself the Party of Jackson anymore, because his legacy is the Indian Removal Act and putting them on the reservations, right?
Which is awful.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine getting your land taken and then saying, you can go here and that's it.
Right. Right. And it's the worst land we have, too.
Right. Bare desert.
Yeah. Yeah. Give them the worst land on the continent and then tell them they have to farm the worst land. Particularly with the Braves, the men weren't really farmers. The women grew what crops they had. and the men hunted. And to tell the men that they had to become farmers was kind of stripping them kind of their manhood. There's a great book about this called Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, by D. Brown, that really does a good job of going into that.
That's a movie, ain't it?
Yeah, HBO did a thing. Yeah. And later on, there was a book written in the 60s called Custer Died for Your Sins, about the Native American reservations and all that. That's a really good book, written by a Native American. I forget his name. But anyway, it's actually a funny book too, believe it or not. He has a real good sense of humor with it.
People going through trauma usually do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Seems.
He's got what's funny is he has one chapter about the thing that annoys Native Americans the most are liberal graduate students who come to the reservations.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
They say that's the thing that annoys them the most. The liberal graduate student who comes there and wants to play drums, you know, and wants to smoke a peace pipe with them, you know.
That's great.
He has a whole chapter on it, just on how much it gets on their nerves.
That's funny.
But anyway, yeah, that's a book to read. But anyway, that's the revolution in West Virginia. It clears the way, out for the settlement and out for the people, to come into West Virginia as we know today.
Yeah, man. That's well, I have questions. I do want to make sure, like, what does it mean that they're so these are sovereign communities, correct? They have their own government, or what? How do reservations work?
Oh, the reservations? Yeah, they have their own government.
Mm-hmm.
They have their own government. They got their own police force. If you're on a reservation, you're on you're on their land and it's their laws. Yeah, if you're driving through, like the Dakotas and everything, or if you're driving through places in like New Mexico where you have to drive through reservations, don't speed. Because you're driving through areas, where it's Native American cops, and so, they have their own jurisdiction. You are technically not on United States property when you're on those reservations. You ever watch Yellowstone?
I've watched parts of it. I haven't dove into it yet, but I know the concept of, like, it's a lot about land in Montana.
Yeah. Up in Montana, it's kind of it's basically like The Young and the Restless with horses.
Right.
If you ever watched any soap operas when you were growing up, I had two sisters, and they were older, and they had control of the TV at home.
Oh, dude,
during the day, so I had to watch a lot of The Young and the Restless and The Bold and the Beautiful.
I heard like Sands Through the Hourglass.
These are the days of our lives. Yeah.
Every day on the big, like, TVs used to be art. Like, it was in a big wooden box.
Oh, yeah.
It had all the little designs on it and stuff, and it had shelves in it. And I remember seeing that at my babysitter's every single day. She would have Days of Our Lives on. Yeah.
But Yellowstone's like, if you go into it with this is kind of like a soap opera,
right?
Don't take it too seriously, then it's great. If you try to like take it seriously as like a piece of real drama, it's not The Godfather, if you say it's a soap opera, then it's a lot of fun.
Taylor Sheridan, did he write that one?
Yeah.
Yeah, he did. And then he's got Landman now. I need to check
with
it
Billy
out.
Bob.
Yeah. But so, all right. So I want to start after they signed, break this down to just simple form for me. So after they signed the Declaration of Independence, how many states were there? Was it still colonies at that time? How did the United States look at that point in time?
So you had the 13 colonies, right? So you didn't really, they weren't really states at first, when they have the Articles of Confederation. They issued the Declaration of Independence in 1776, and they come up with the Articles of Confederation, which is really very little more than a treaty that we're all going to stick together until the war's over, then we'll see what happens. Okay. And then after the war, it's, 1788, 1789, 1787, 1788, when they have the Constitutional Convention in Philadelphia, and they write the Constitution that we know of today. And then if you voted to ratify the Constitution, then you became a state. Delaware being the first state to ratify the Constitution, so they get to have the claim as the first official state. And that's the last thing Delaware ever did that anybody remembered. But
well, they have no taxes, which is crazy. When you go there and you start shopping and you realize, like, whoa, there's no taxes. Because I went and bought a bunch of stuff from some random outlet mall.
Yeah.
We went to a place called Ocean City, Maryland.
Mm-hmm.
Then you can go right across and go to Delaware and go shopping. And I was like, this is kind of awesome. I don't know how this works.
Yeah.
But shopping here is cool.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. It's good for a shopping
and
trip.
they're one of the only places that have anonymity for businesses. So a lot of YouTubers actually get their business license there.
Oh, yeah? I didn't know
they
that.
they can't publicly release their information.
Oh,
like
okay.
address and stuff like that.
Oh.
So interesting note. That's how they get a lot of business tax coming in. I think that's how they probably allow for no taxes when it comes to sales tax. But that's just a guess.
Maybe. Yeah, I didn't know. I know
there's a lot of little things like that about Delaware. It's a lot of businesses have incorporated there for that reason. But
I've been there once.
Right. Yeah, that's the only time I've been. It looked the same. It's like, hey, this is cool. No taxes.
No, I had a nice day there. People were friendly.
It's a good time. So all right. So we start forming all these borders, and everyone starts breaking off. Eventually, the Civil War occurs, and that's when West Virginia was formed. There's two other states too. What was it? It was like Minnesota and someone else. I can't remember. There's a few.
Well, West Virginia forms in the middle of the Civil War in 1863
because of the Wiley Amendment, right? That was part of it.
The Wiley Amendment was part of it. So. We're getting into this now.
Sure, yeah. I mean, you know,
why not? You had most Western Virginians favored the North in the war.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that doesn't necessarily mean they were necessarily anti-slavery. You did have some hardcore anti-slavery people. There was the town of Cerrito. You ever been to Cerrito?
Yes.
Yeah, that was founded by abolitionists, and that was a big part of the Underground Railroad.
Really?
Yeah. Cerrito.
They also have the pumpkin house, I think.
Yeah.
Every Halloween. I mean, you know, that's nowhere near comparison as to how they was formed. But anyway.
Yeah. Eli Thayer, this guy that founded Cerrito, and he was an abolitionist, and they helped out in the Underground Road. They would smuggle people to Huntington, which is where there wasn't a Huntington yet. But there was a guy that lived there, Ramsdale, who had a house, and that house is still there. It's a historic house. They've got a museum there. And they would sneak escaped individuals up there. And then across the river where Proctorville is, it wasn't Proctorville, it was called Quaker Bottom at the time. And there were Quakers, and they were abolitionists too. And they had like a system, because he had bounty hunters everywhere. And they had like a lantern system where they would make signals when the coast was clear. They would sneak people up to the Ramsdale house. And then they had boats that they hid in a little tunnel, and then they would haul slaves across the river to Ohio to the free states. This is when we were still part of Virginia. So you had a good number of abolitionists here, but our economic ties were with the North at this time. Western Virginia had a very different economy than Eastern Virginia, and we talked a little bit about this, I think, last time.
That's part of why it was formed, is because we didn't want to send all our money east. But a few other things too. But
yeah.
I always take pride in the fact that we were formed under. Now, granted, I wish it would just abolished it flat out, but it made steps to abolishing slavery to literally become a state.
Yeah.
So I always take pride in that fact. And a lot of people's like, oh, they weren't against slavery. I'm like, well, it's in legislation.
Yeah.
That they were moving to abolish it.
Yeah, they did. They had to do that before with their statehood would be approved.
Yeah, before the Union would accept them.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And first they submitted. It's funny how they did it, because you can't in the Constitution, a state can't be broken up unless that state agrees to it, like that state government. Of course, Virginia seceded from the Union, right? So how are they going to get permission from the government of Virginia to make their own state and make it constitutional? Well, what they did after that Battle of Rich Mountain, that General McClellan wins and drives the Southerners past Charleston, drives them all the way down past Charleston. So now the North, from the first couple months of the war, the North has everything north of Charleston in West Virginia in control. That gives the people the ability to make their own state. But what they say is in Wheeling, they form what they call the Reorganized Government of Virginia. Okay. And they say, well, the government in Richmond, they're traitors because they left the country. We're loyal and we're still in Virginia. We are the official government of Virginia now. We're the loyal government of Virginia. And Abraham Lincoln recognized the Wheeling folks as the legitimate Virginia government. Once they got recognized as the legitimate Virginia government by Lincoln, they could then give themselves permission to create a state.
Okay.
So they found a loophole that enabled them to do that, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, and then eventually they voted like, well, we need a more centralized location for the capital.
Yeah, when they moved, they keep moving
down the
back
road.
and forth.
Yeah.
Between Charleston and Wheeling.
Charleston, Wheeling. There was another one too.
It moved a couple of times, but it moved down to Charleston after Southerners got political power in the 1870s, early 1870s.
Well, we voted on it, right? Wasn't it between three different communities? I think it was like I can't remember.
I've got it. Yeah, I'd have to recheck that.
Yeah, anyway, Charleston eventually became the capital.
Yeah.
And I think there's still a building in Wheeling, right? The Capitol building's still there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And they've got Independence Hall down there where the state was made. You can go see that.
Yeah.
A cool little museum in Wheeling.
Heck
Wheeling's got some cool stuff.
Oh, I love Wheeling. It's a beautiful place.
Yeah, I got to get that Wheeling feeling.
Yeah. Not according. Have you seen Theo Vaughn talk about that?
No.
Okay. He compared the Wheeling feeling to the time he got chlamydia in Wheeling. That's what he said. He said, "Gonna have that Wheeling feeling." And I was like, "Oh Lord!"
That's more of a Morgantown thing. That's a Morgantown thing.
Oh man, I love him. All right,
that's Keglers. That's why that comes to your wings. Get your wings with the side of chlamydia at Keglers.
Oh God! All right, so we're here somehow by the grace of God. We are here today. Yeah. Hopefully we don't screw it up.
Hopefully we don't screw it up.
There was a lot of blood, to say the least.
Yeah, there was.
That went into this whole thing. And hearing the brutal history about it, I mean, obviously, I'm proud to be American. I always will be. But at the same time, man, you can't ignore how freaking brutal this was.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, at the end of the day, we're an empire. America's an empire, and empires, are built on conquest, and conquest is brutal. Everything from the Roman Empire to Genghis Khan's empire. I mean, once the empires get made and things settle down, then, you can have prosperity and that kind of thing if it's a well-done empire. But in building them, there's always a lot of blood.
Yeah.
And a lot of tragedy and a lot of wrongdoing. And boy, I didn't go over some of the more brutal stuff, like examples of like violence that happened. I mean, there were instances where and both sides did this stuff. But like the Shawnee, there's some examples of them taking babies and tying up their legs and bashing up their heads against the trees and then hanging the corpses on limbs. Then there was another incident where the settlers attack the Native Americans, and they find a Native American woman who's pregnant, and they cut her open and take the fetus out and impale it and put it on a stick outside. There was one officer that they capture, the Shawnee capture, and they boiled him alive. So yeah, this was.
They really did that. I remember seeing I think it was Addams Family where they was making a joke and they put this big pot on a fire and then had someone sitting in it. But man, golly,
yeah. Sometimes I don't know if it's the Shawnee or the Delaware, but some of them would occasionally eat the heart. Mm-hmm. If you killed somebody and you thought it was a really good warrior, you ate their heart. after you killed them. Because you believe the essence of their fighting spirit would go into you.
Yeah. They was doing that in Liberia in like the early 2000s. There's this guy named General Butt Naked.
Yeah.
He would get naked, and they had like a civil war going on, and they would sacrifice a child and eat the child's heart before battle.
Right.
And it's like, how do we get there?
Yeah.
I will never understand.
Yeah.
It's but it's important to remember, like, we are capable of some heinous stuff. I mean, even today, we're still getting into wars. Like, we just can't exist. We have to conquer things. And unfortunately, the people who are the chosen get to decide who we conquer. And now we have these little things called nukes, which is like, there's no reset button for that.
No, there isn't. Although I have to say, I don't worry about nuclear annihilation the way I did when I was a kid. We still, because anti-missile systems are so good now that if you have the big launch, we could pretty much shoot down anything that was launched at us.
I like the way you think. There's a movie that just released on Netflix.
I worry more about AI's role in the military, drones, and all of that. Them giving AI drones the ability to decide when to shoot people and not. If you look you can find all kinds of footage on YouTube on the Ukraine war and how drones are just changing warfare completely.
That's the thing is, we've took the toothpaste out of the tube. AI is here. It's going to be here.
And
it makes a lot of things a lot more productive. Research, all kinds of different things. But at the same time, we don't really know what we're dealing with.
Yeah.
I don't think.
Yeah. Of course, as a professor, it annoys the crap out of me because all the students are using AI, to try to write their essays. It's so obvious too.
Well,
it's so obvious.
There's a pattern of writing, but also too, you can get the program that, I don't know if it works or not. It shows like this is AI. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Students will still deny it too.
Sure.
They will deny it.
I'd be one of those students. But I'm that's why I made it a semester. I figured out what 099 meant when it come to math, and I was like, I'm not doing this. I'm not going to pay for this class that don't matter.
Yeah.
And then I'd make some rationalization on why I was right, and then I'd drop out of college like a goofball. But thankfully, met my sugar mama. All is well. A House of Dynamite on Netflix.
House of Dynamite.
Watch that.
Okay.
It really puts things in perspective on the nuclear war process of if like you was to wake up and then the government hears that, so-and-so country has fired a nuke. And then it shows the real life processes of what happens. It's a very interesting movie.
Wow. Yeah. I'll have to check that out.
Yeah. You have to watch it. It's terrifying, but I have to lean on the greater good of people that we have a system. I mean, there's a lot of checks and balances we have built that are being, there's a lot of things being tested, but I'll always believe that so far this is the best system out there, in my opinion. Is it perfect? Lord, no.
Right.
But at the same time, we'll see, man.
Yeah, there's never been a civilization in the history of the planet where you've had more prosperity spread across the population than the United States.
Yeah.
Particularly between the 40s and the 70s. And really, globally, even all the way up into the 21st century. There's one statistic that if you make over $40,000 a year, you're in the top 10% of the world's wealthiest people. So, and if we think, somebody's making $40,000 a year here, we're like, well, that's not much money at all, which it isn't here.
Yeah.
But globally speaking, Americans have historically had way more prosperity than the rest of the world.
Oh, there's gorgeous places in Mexico that you can move that are real peaceful, and you could, if you was to take $40,000, you probably could live for 40 years. So many places like that across the world, but at the same time, there's some places that are not too safe. But I believe that there are more safe places than not. But at the same time, That's why I don't travel. I don't know enough. So maybe if you come here enough, I'll know enough to travel outside of. Let's see. I've been to Florida, Nevada, California. That's the farthest places.
Okay.
But maybe one day I'll go outside of that.
Gotta head to Scotland.
I know we want to go. I want to go to I want to go to Ireland and go to like the Guinness tour.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we went by the Guinness place when we were in Dublin.
That's fun.
It's as big as Union Carbide.
Oh, I wouldn't doubt it.
It's gigantic. We were driving by it, and I was like, "What is that place?" Like, that's the Guinness factory. It's like that's gigantic.
Yeah. Well, they have so they have that show about the Guinness family, and apparently it was like Game of Thrones level, but when they was starting in the early days, it's like Peaky Blinders with beer.
Yeah.
If you ever watch Peaky Blinders. But anyway, a lot to it. Well, cool, man. Well, I appreciate you walking through everything. I just find this stuff so interesting, and we'll have to find something else.
Yeah. Well, we could do maybe next year we can do the Civil War.
Yeah. I mean, we barely touched on. There's a whole lot to that, so I think that's what we should do.
Yeah, we could do the Civil War.
That'd be great. And Harper's Ferry.
Yeah. Have you been to Harper's Ferry?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful place.
That's a really cool place.
Yep. That's what we'll do. Well, tell people where they can buy your book, sir.
Yeah, my book is The Road to Blair Mountain. That's my most recent book. And you can get it on Amazon. You can get it on WVU Press. You can buy it at places like Taylor Books if you're in Charleston area. So, and that's about how we saved the Blair Mountain battlefield and created the Mine Wars Museum and a bunch of the things like that. And it also talks about the history of the mine wars in the region. And I'm working on a book about West Virginians in World War II now.
We'll have to do that one too.
Yeah, man, I'm 200 pages into the book, and I've got about 200 more to go before there's so many amazing stories about World War II and West Virginians, just amazing stories. But I hope to finish that book in about another year, and I'd love to come on talk to you about some of those guys.
Oh man, that'll be awesome. I'm looking forward to it already. And if y'all want to know about the Mine Wars, we did about 4 hours on it. So I'll put that link in the description. So definitely check that out. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Everyone else out there, be sure to like this video, subscribe to Creepalachia on YouTube if you haven't. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, take a minute and leave a review. That'll really help the show be found. We are on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, all the places, Blue Sky, X, I don't know. We're out there. Search for us. And this shirt is part of our new Spectral Guardian series. We have 4 of these. So be sure to check that out. We're only selling 100 of each at creepalachia.shop. And everyone else always remember, above all else, long live Appalachia.